You might have forgotten, but Marco Rubio is still running for the presidency. And he was asked recently at a rally, why does his God allow terrible terrorist attacks to happen? And this was his response.
I was asked this question the other night at a forum we did at the family later, and asked me, where was God on 9/11? Where was God in Paris? I said, God is where God always is, on the throne in heaven. Because the question was, how could God allow these bad things to happen? And it always challenges us to understand God's ways are not our ways. What we may interpret as bad, and most certainly is in the case of Paris or 9/11, even that is part of a broader plan for the universe and for our lives that we're just not going to know the answer to. God's ways are not our ways.
Now, look, I probably wouldn't have even covered this, except he chose to bring it up. Now, I understand that what he just said there about God working in mysterious ways, and every Christian has been asked the question of why these terrible things happen. I understand that is something that not just Christian people, but everybody who believes in some sort of supreme being, they have to reconcile the terrible nature of our world and most people with the fact that we have this supposedly benevolent creator. But he was the one who brought up the fact that terrorism is sort of not justifiable under, but that we can understand why it happens and we shouldn't overly question it. The reason that we're talking about it, though, is that it's so selective, it's so piecemeal. So just, it's God's plan, so we have to accept it. Okay, then why are you running for the presidency? Okay, you don't like abortion. Okay, well, abortion's happening. Apparently it's God's plan that it happen. ISIS exists. Why do you want to fight it? It's God's plan that ISIS exists. When they say that it's God's plan, but then they try to change the world in various ways, it just fundamentally doesn't make any sense. What you actually mean is, it sucks that bad things happen, we just have to accept it and then try to change things. Fundamentally, what you're saying is the same thing every secular person believes, you just coat it in a layer of God. But if there was actually a benevolent God, nobody really believes that if he was a conscious thing that was trying to make the world a good place, that he would allow it to happen. But again, it's him that's bringing it up. I don't have any interest in just mocking Christians for 4 minutes today. Right. Sometimes I do. But it's ridiculous when you talk about it in this way when you're running to be the president of the most powerful country in the world.
Yeah. I don't have strong feelings about that video. Of course, I think it sounds ridiculous. But at the same time, there are lots of very lovable religious people out there, Christians included, obviously, who rely on Christianity or their faith to get through tough times in life. Yeah. And then they're asked these very difficult questions that really put into perspective how unreal their beliefs are. Yeah. And so they try to reason and they try to come up with excuses or whatever it is, and that's what Marco Rubio was doing there. And I'm actually fine with it. It's fine. Because the thing is, when I think about Christians, I think of people like my mom, right? And my mom is very, very sick. And the thing that she relies on is her faith, right? And whenever, I think of Christians, not extremists or fundamentalists, I think of people like that. And I'm fine with it. If they get an answer like that and it makes them feel good and it gives them, the comfort that they need, then it's fine.
I understand. And I mean, a lot of my family is still religious. My grandfather, who I love, is a liberal Christian. Yeah. I have no interest in doubting on their beliefs. The problem I have is when the presidential candidate says it. Because
I agree.
I don't want to hear a presidential candidate or a ministerial candidate in America or in Iran talking about God, especially because, like, he says God works in mysterious ways, but he's still going to pursue policies. He says God works in mysterious ways, but God doesn't exist. The world works in understandable ways. If we try to understand it, we try to understand the consequences of the policies that we pursue. ISIS is not the product of a 1,000-year-old divine plan. It's the product of understandable social, economic, military, and in some ways climate consequences, things that we can influence and have influenced. Yeah. And to say that everybody watching that might support my presidential candidacy should just be fatalistic and God works in mysterious ways. Don't bother thinking about it. Don't look into the history of the Middle East or how we arbitrarily drew borders and how we pitted one group, one ethnic group against another and how we've demonized the religion and bombed them for decades and decades. Don't understand any of that stuff. God works in mysterious ways. It's a way to calm down and stroke and pet the populace while he then goes off and regardless of whatever religion he says he has, he pursues actual economic and military policies abroad. That's why it bothers me. I got no problem with the belief if it comforts you. It's that he is fundamentally lying to you about his beliefs and what he would actually do. That's where I have a problem with Marco Rubio.